I guess my experience with stand-up paddling, I've never actually, being a surfboard shaper, I've never shaped one myself, because in the discussions I've had with Dave, I came to the realisation pretty quickly that a stand-up paddleboard is just not a blown-up longboard. Everything is different, the volume distribution, the rockers, the curves, the whole thing. So I think I'm really happy riding his boards. I think he's an incredible shaper. I toured with him on the ASP tour. I think I can't remember if we competed against each other, but I know he was on the tour when I was on the tour. And I've been aware of Dave, shaping Aleutian Juice surfboards in California, and I think he's kind of taken his shaping talents and his surfing talents, and I think he's come up with some really wonderful models and a great range of boards. And it's a funny thing in the surfing industry that I guess the shaper is the guy who sort of sets the direction for what everyone rides, but there's not many shapers in the world who are actually good surfers themselves. Most shapers actually rely on feedback from team riders, and a lot of the time it's hard to extract the feelings that team riders are actually getting from a board. They can talk to you about it, but I think a lot of them actually have trouble expressing what the board's doing or what the board isn't doing. So Dave, with being a great surfer and also a great shaper, and also living in the Kaha with perfect right point break, and having Brian Keolana ride his boards, and Brian's an incredible surfer and waterman. He's in that unique situation where he can actually go and shape a board. He can ride it, Brian can ride it, they've got Makaha to test it in, and he can kind of absorb his own feedback. I'm sure he's happy listening to people who are riding his boards, and he's absorbing the feedback from them, but I think what's really going on is that Dave has a vision about these boards, and I think his shaping ability and his surfing ability is resulting in him shaping and C4 probably producing the best high performance stand up models that are made in the world today. One of the coolest things about the new range of subvectors is the concave deck. David actually sent me an email a while back, and I think he actually sent me a photo of one of the first ones he'd done, and he said he was experimenting with concave decks, and it was sort of hard to see it properly in the photo, and it was hard to actually visualise it. But when I saw the first demo models, I was really excited about it, because not only does it look really cool in the board and sort of look really racy, the design theory behind it is great, because it actually it feels like you're down in the deck of the board, and it feels like the board is actually thinner than what it is, because this section of the rail is thicker and this is sort of concaved out. So it feels like you're kind of right down in the board, and you've got a lot more feeling from it. It's kind of like on I've got this theory with a normal surfboard that as they age, they actually go better, because what happens is when you get a brand new board, there's no foot dents in it. And with a normal surfboard, with the glassing, as you ride it for a while, it starts to really dent up and the deck starts to become concaved. And when it becomes concaved, it feels as though your feet are actually sitting down in the board and you've got more feel. And what Dave has done with this concave deck is really, it's the same sort of thing. He's engineered a beat up, lived in, surfed for 6 months feel into a brand new board. So the moment you actually get on it, it feels like your feet are sitting in the board, and the board feels really sensitive, and it feels as though it's been worn in. I got so excited about the new range of subvectors, the 9.3 and the 9.6, that I actually gave Dave Parmenter a call to see if he could make me a custom EPS 9.4, sort of halfway between the 9.3 and the 9.6, because I have this theory, I don't know whether I'm right or not, but the majority of my stand-up paddling where I live in the Newcastle area is done in beach break conditions, where the waves tend to break sort of reasonably quickly, and a lot of the time it's closing out. It's hard to actually find sort of ideal conditions. We don't really have a lot of point breaks in this area without having to travel a lot, and I haven't actually got to that point of prowess where I can motor my way through foam coming at me using the paddle to pull myself through. Every now and again I can get through a wave, but most of the time I go flying off the board. So I've got this theory that in the conditions that I actually use the board in, that if you could get one that was super, super light, that it would be really good in the small sort of sloppy surf that I ride it in. The lightness would add to the responsiveness that Dave has actually built into these sub-vector shapes. So I'm pretty excited to try it, and I really think that it's going to feel like a high-performance surfboard, because in normal surfboard production, most of the boards when you walk into a surf shop, they're all glassed to last. They're glassed reasonably strongly, so there's a certain amount of weight in them which deadens the performance. If you get a high-performance surfboard glassed in 4 ounce without finish coats, the board being lighter just feels faster and it feels more lively and easier to turn. So I'm kind of like super excited about this one that Dave is doing for me now, because I spoke to him and he spoke to his glasser about getting it as light as possible. So I think it's going to be, I know it's going to go good because it's a sub-vector, but I think it's going to go even better again than the boards that I've been riding because of the weight. I think it's going to be great in the small surf that I surf here in Newcastle. A friend of mine, Bruce Raymond, is bringing the board back from Hawaii, so it'll be my stand-up surfboard Christmas present to myself via Dave Parmenter.